Welcome to Max Value, a show for business owners and their professional advisors pursuing maximum value. We talk about business valuation, exit planning, global staffing, and all sorts of fun stuff. I'm your host, Ben Towne. Today, we are joined by an extremely special guest, Denise Froemming, the president and CEO of CalCPA, the California Society of CPAs. So I have to say, this is pretty exciting for me. I'm getting to do my podcast thing, which I'm really enjoying. And I get to have somebody on the show who has such an important role in one of the organizations that I'm very passionate about. I'm a CPA in California, and I've been a member of CalCPA for over 20 years. I know, despite the youthful experience or youthful visage, and yeah, of course, it's something I'm still, very heavily involved in. And by the way, I'm not going to take away anything from any past or present leaders of the organization, but I really think that you've brought some really cool, interesting stuff, some interesting ideas to the organization, some revitalizing energy, and just thank you.
Well, I have to thank you, Ben. I am honored to be here, and thank you for everything that you've given to the profession and to CalCPA. I mean, you're in the forensic section. You do so much for us. So I need to say thank you for being engaged and involved. Really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. It's a labor of love, as you know how it normally is with these volunteer organizations. But by the way, you get to know that what I was saying was heartfelt, since I didn't have to say any of that to actually get you on the show. You're already here. So
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I love what I do too. So you have to.
It's clear. It's clear you do. So now that you are here, why don't you give us a little bit about your professional background and how you got here?
Yeah, I mean, it's never a straight road, is it? It's always like a little journey with switchbacks in it. And that's truly what it's been for me. And I always thought I wanted to be in healthcare because I wanted to, I cared about people. I wanted to give back. And I thought healthcare is the only way. But we know as accountants and CPAs, there's a way to give back too, right? Which all of you do so often. But I started out I loved finances and that was numbers was my thing. And so I thought, well, I'll kind of marry both of them and connect them. So I went into healthcare, more on the nonprofit side, but in a financial role. So I came up through taxes, I did a lot of 990s and audits and so forth. So came up through that kind of area and business analysis, and then was a CFO. And then I moved over to another organization where I then was the COO. It was more information governance and data analytics, but within the healthcare space. So think of your health record. We did a lot with health records. So we tried to get one universal health record. By the time I left, we never got it, but we got closer to it. And there's some consistency out there. So it was interesting. And then I went into real estate. So these are all international organizations, and we had real estate managers throughout the world. So what was interesting is one of our managers managed the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. So when I went there, we had members throughout the world. We were able to go and visit condos there in the structure. So it was kind of interesting. So you never know where your profession's going to take you, right? And then someone had reached out to me and said, "Do you want to help like your people? Do you want to help CPAs because you're a CPA?" And I said, "I think I would." And so here I am. But I'm really passionate about the profession. I'm very proud to be a CPA. You'd have to take that designation out of my dying hands because it's so important to me. But I truly love what I do and the members, and just seeing how we can really help the profession thrive. So it's a passion for me, and a role, but mostly a passion, honestly.
So you've gone from health records to real estate to the CPAs, of which we both belong. So what's next? Like the actuaries?
Who knows? No, I will never give up my CPA.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's fun. It is actually kind of funny that you say that, being so passionate about being a CPA, even though I frankly, I don't do any real CPA work anymore, and that's kind of the, I don't know, the branding that I have. Uh, but it is so central to uh, the ethos of how I work and who I am and all those things. So it's really cool to hear you say that. Um, and I don't have any tattoos, but that CPA might be the one thing really consider. I mean, my kids too, probably, but the
Yeah,
kids and CPA maybe.
I
Well,
agree. It's key, and there is definitely um, a reputation out there. I mean, I know we're going to talk more about that, but when I went to the one role, which was the CEO of the Institute of Real Estate Managers, they hired me. The differentiator was a CPA because they said,
mm,
we're financial people. We do a lot of valuation for buildings, right? And this is what we do. And we need someone who has that trust and that integrity piece. So they said that kind of put you over the edge, which was interesting because I never thought they would even think about that, but they did.
that's really interesting. I never really thought about it as kind of, the CPA is your huckleberry. It's just the little thing
Yeah,
that can put you over the top. Um, because it's so important to us. It seems big, but I mean, to the outside world, it's not big, but it's important.
it is. Yes. I
Okay.
like that little huckleberry. It's a good visual. Very good.
And right now, the reason why you're so uh, eloquent on the podcast here, it's because you have a podcast called Rise and Stride. Just briefly intro that, would you?
Yeah, it's we started out thinking, the world was changing quickly, but not as quick as it is today. But when we started this about 3 years ago, there's a lot of change, and we thought, is there a way for us to bring individuals on the podcast to talk about how they're navigating some of the change and how they're making sense of what's happening out there, and if we can help, individuals take that one step forward, because sometimes it feels like you're taking three back and one forward, but how can we make sure the motion is always forward? We thought, let's bring
Nah.
people together. Yeah. I talked about having you. I mean, there's just so many of our members and so many leaders out there that are making a difference. But how do we showcase that and really make sure that we're making a difference every day? So that was why we started it. And like I said to you when we started, I love interviewing and talking to anyone, even in elevators. God knows sometimes the conversation takes longer than just going up and down, but I do. And so when I can talk to different leaders and really learn and help the audience learn, to me, it's a special gift.
Well, unless you're at the Burj Khalifa, then you can have a whole PowerPoint deck and go on and on.
All different things, yes, yes.
So it's probably not going to be every day that I get a chance to grill you on things. So here it goes. Although let's warm up with a few easy
Go
ones.
for it.
Um, what is a CPA? What is that person's role in business and society? And why does CPA as a thing exist
Hmm.
in your mind?
I think today it's even more important. Probably everyone's said this than ever. The CPA is valuable. I mean, when you think about trust, I mean, the trust is right. We're stewards, we have integrity, transparency. We make sure that there's that element of trust. When you think about that in the world that we're in, I can't think of a time that it's probably more critical and important to have that piece. Oh, and you think right in the, certified public accountant. A lot of times I think people think, well, I have to do public accounting. Well, that's part of it, but it's protecting the public, right? And that's the key piece to make sure that the markets, the economy, when you invest, everything can be trusted and that there's that integrity piece. I think about it. I don't know if you remember way back to when you were in school. I remember my first course, they talked about, you know, making sure you have trust in that transparency, in fact and appearance. And to me, that appearance piece, it just struck a chord in me. That's the differentiator, right? You have facts out there, but does it look right? And if it doesn't look right, God knows today things don't look right sometimes. So we have to make sure we're there as that steward, making sure we have both those elements. And for me, that meant a lot. I thought, well, I really have to hold things to a higher level. So for me, it's that public trust, right, that we have. It's being stewards, and it's definitely um, sets you apart, I think, from others that are out there in other professions that are out there. So really key. And just this little story, I'm all about stories. I talked to a student a couple years ago, and she was in a Mac program at Davis, and she's like, I'm a finance major, but I'm getting my accounting degree because I want people to listen to me. They don't listen to me today. She said, but if I'm a CPA, they're going to know I have that trust piece, that integrity, and they're going to actually, when I say something, they're going to listen. So I thought that was kind of interesting from a young professional, but it's definitely the stewardship and the integrity piece. That's,
That-
I think, are
That's
key.
that's a really good story because I think it is the uh, that's very perceptive. I think the one of the things that I always feel is a great thing about being a CPA is that there is that trust, but it needs to be enforced as well. So if you're a CPA and you're messing around, the board of accountancy will get on you and discipline you. And we obviously see that more often than anybody would like. But at the same time, uh, nobody's going to take away your MBA, or nobody's going to take away your I don't know what else. I mean, you could get fired from a job, but
Right.
being the threat of having your license taken away uh, is huge.
That's a really good point. There is that enforcement piece, and it's real out there. I mean, I see enforcement reports and
Mhm.
names at times of people that right are on there. So it is. There's not other professions that have that. You're right.
How do you become one? Nobody knows this process more than you do.
Well, and I learn every day different nuances. So, I think about the three E's, and we talk about that a lot. We talk about the education piece. Your education has to have that element of accounting concentration, the experience piece. So you have to work in under, right, someone that a CPA, and then you have to have the ethics, right, the ethics piece as well. So there's and the exam. Actually, there's four E's. The exam, if you because that's the qualifier, right? You have to take the exam, and if you pass that and you have the experience in education, then you can become a CPA. So there's all those pieces, and so it's going to be hinging on kind of those four elements. It's going to be a bachelor's degree with an accounting concentration. And that accounting concentration, today it's 24 units of accounting and 24 units of business. The California Board of Accountancy is working on that. And academics, firms, they're influencing and informing what that looks like. Probably will look similar to that, but that's really the education piece. So a bachelor's degree, they're not hanging their hat on units, it's bachelor's. And then it has 2 years of experience, right? Working under a CPA. And so that's kind of the foundation. And from that, there are different pathways. So the reason the change was really to provide something that was more simple, not necessarily
Mm.
as complex, and something that was more flexible because we know people are coming into the profession many different paths. And so we wanted to say, we want to make sure that we have a path that makes sense to you. And it doesn't have to be necessarily the 150 units. So, like I said, foundation bachelor's in 2 years. You can come in and you can take a master's, and that shaves off a year of experience. So you'd need 1 year of experience. They're looking at if you have a certificate of some sort, um, whatever that may be from a university or a community college, that may shave off 8 months of experience, and you may only need, you know, 1 year and 2 months, right? Or 4 months. What am I doing? I know math in 4 months. So
We'll correct you in
they're
post.
trying to do this and to look at it in a much more flexible way. So that's really great news for anyone that's coming into the profession. So that's what it's going to be going forward. And many of the states are moving in the same direction. There's 14, I think, that have passed or are in the legislative process. We're in the legislative process, and so by January 1st, 2027, the new pathway, if everything goes well, will come into being, and then that will be the pathway going forward, and then you can adjust it based on kind of how you're coming in to the profession. So it's really good news. Really excited about it. It does create much more simple pathway, not easier, and it does provide more flexibility, which we're excited about.
Yeah, and that's going to be really important going forward because, well, and you guys, CalCPA and you, Denise, have been kind of on the pushing edge of this. I think you were at the very beginning, even though the legislative process is taking a little longer,
Yes.
and other states have actually passed it. You have actually been there from minute one, so that's a really good thing. And it's such a hodgepodge and mix up of national standard with state standards that it is unduly or has been unduly complex in the past. So I'm glad you said simple isn't easy though, because it isn't. And just from my own anecdote library, that exam is just crazy. It's and back when I took it, it was 2 full days in a big fairground setting in a showroom. We had paper and pencil and the stupid small little calculator that couldn't do anything,
Ah,
which you
That's
didn't really need because the comprehension was much more important on that. And I took the very last instance of the paper and pencil exam
oh, did
before it
you?
was switched. Yeah, before it was switched to the computerized version. So I was very motivated to pass that darn thing because I didn't want to take a chance on a new unproven method. So okay, uh, just a piece of trivia out in here. Illinois and now California and California CPA. Do you know what the where the first CPA license was issued?
I only know because I looked it up, but I want you to say because you know.
Okay, well I had to look it up too because nobody would know. Except the guys over in New York City.
New York City? New York City?
Yeah.
Back in 1896, 130 years ago or so, they were the first ones to mint a certified public accountant. So there you go. Uh, oh,
I think it's pretty
bonus.
cool too, how it all
It,
came
it is
about.
cool.
Yeah.
Uh, bonus question. So 1896. That was before which 5 states were admitted to the U.S.? Do you know?
You go.
Okay.
I may know
The
some.
you'll know the last two: Oklahoma, New Mexico, Arizona, Alaska, and Hawaii.
I did not know the Oklahoma.
Yeah, that when you get in that middle section there, it's a little tough. I,
Yeah.
I know you could guess Hawaii and Alaska, but
Yeah, those 2,
um,
but yeah, I wasn't aware of Oklahoma. Because you
yeah,
think about that as the beginning, right? The breadbasket type of.
right, absolutely. Okay, so now getting a little serious again. What in your mind is the difference between an accountant, quote unquote, and a CPA?
Mhm. So when I think of accounting, I think of like the language of business, and I think a lot of us say that, right? It is the language of business. If you understand that, you understand kind of the business runs. You can connect the dots. You can opine on, the financial position, the valuation. I mean, what you do is a whole nother world beyond comprehension to me. So if I needed any valuation, I would say, Ben, what do I need to do? Because it's all. I mean, there's so many different specialties
Mhm,
within the profession. You think about doctors and there's oncologists, you think there's podiatrists, there's all different. Same in accounting. So when I go to talk to people, they're like, can you do my taxes? And I don't do my own taxes, so no, I cannot do your taxes, right? So forensics, the valuation, there's so much that within accounting, right, and within what we do. And so I would say that language of business and understanding the fraud aspect and valuation, so many pieces. The difference to me, and this may sound kind of strange with the CPA, is, I mean, definitely that additional scrutiny, right? The trust. I think
mhm,
of it as the conscience of business, right? Because
mhm,
we're the ones that really have that integrity, trust, and the public perspective piece that, it doesn't necessarily have to be there if you do accounting. So both important, but different, somewhat different and a nuance to it, if that
mhm.
kind of makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that is aside from certain additional things like we have to go through the process of becoming a CPA, which is not easy. I totally agree with you that we're kind of relied upon to be custodians of financial truth. And when we've kind of already talked about it, when things go wrong, like you get, an FTX or a Theranos or an Enron. I mean, thinking back to some of these just financial failures, financial governance failures. Well, they blew up one of the was it big five accounting
Yeah.
firms at the time. The entire firm blew up because, and I'm not I'm not relishing that at all. Partly, I was trying to find a job at the same time as all those people
Oh,
were
were
entering the
you?
workforce. Oh, it was great. Um,
You were
but
stuck in that, yeah.
crazy. Uh, but but the fact is that there are consequences. So even though some of the best accountants that I know aren't CPAs. In fact, my business partner isn't a CPA, and he's literally one of the smartest guys, one of the smartest accountants that I know. And thankfully, I know him super well, and he's of the utmost integrity, etc. But you don't always know, without
Right.
that sword hanging over your head.
Exactly. And you think about even when during COVID, so many business owners reached out to their CPAs
That's
and
right.
said, "Can I get a PPP? Who do you know? I trust you. You've got connections." I mean, there was a lot of power in that, just with that element of it. And I think too, I think about Jillian, fan who told me, I do taxes, but my clients call me for everything. I mean, they call me, their son's going to college. They call me about this because they trust, like I know people or I know the answer.
Right. Well, it is funny getting the very random questions, and it is very heartwarming. Like, oh, you're coming to me for this. That's great. Thank you so much. No, I don't know anything about taxes. It's it kind of feels like sometimes a where a doctor has to look at, oh, can you look at this growth on my on my back? Okay, I'm a dentist, like, and I feel
Exactly.
like that sometimes.
You're so right. Is because you're trusted, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does feel good, except for the growth part. That's not so good.
Yeah, exactly.
So moving on. Recently, I was listening to a podcast, and an influencer was saying that if a client is looking at your credentials, you've already lost. And this was in terms of a CPA license. Now, that was for a very particular situation. I think he was saying when you're looking at pitching to prospects and that kind of thing. But there is a real question out there about why an individual should earn a CPA license as a professional, or why you need to find one maybe as a business owner versus a bookkeeper slash accountant slash whatever. Why does a
Mhm.
business owner care? What are your thoughts?
It's interesting when I read that comment, I thought to me it somewhat means you have to be acting it, right? I mean, if you're kind of looking at, you should all embody that, right? In what you do. Um, I would say from a business owner perspective, the
Trying,
trust,
Denise. I'm trying.
I love it. I love it. The trust piece to me is so important. And I guess that's an element. If I was a business owner, my parents were, both of them were entrepreneurs. So they had different businesses. And that's where actually Barb Webb was our CPA. That's where I just learned what a CPA was because both of them had a CPA that they could trust, right, to answer some of their questions and tell them, kind of what they needed to do to make sure they did what was right and then also understood what they could do and how from a tax perspective for sure they could position things. So for me it's definitely, I mean, if I was a business owner, I'd have one in my corner because of the connections, the trust, and just the valuation, the understanding, and the knowledge that is quite frankly there. So I think everybody needs one in their corner.
Well, and that's interesting. It sounds like you're certainly not refuting the utility of, say, like a good bookkeeper, for example. And I'll give a shout out to Morgan and Joanne, our good bookkeepers, because guess what? I don't do my books either.
Right.
That's not my best usage. Neither do I do my taxes, just like you. Because for me, I don't want to learn how to do one tax return a year. So absolutely, having that person who you just rely on is huge. Um, so now back to a little bit of a sarcastic question
Yeah.
again. What all business owners want to know, why does it cost so much to get your taxes done?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. And I would say too, when we need to do a better job, all of us, when you
Mm,
say, right, of saying, what is the value? I mean, we talked about this a bit, but what is that value? That strategic, that advisor piece. We don't do a great job of that as CPAs, right? We talk a lot about um, the hours but really, what is the value? So I think we all need to do a better job with that. And, from the tax perspective, I mean, I think you could be charged $1,500 or $1,000 to $20,000 or 30, right? It depends. And I know so many CPAs that are integrating the advisory in wealth management investor piece into that and looking at, here's one element, but we could do much more if we can advise you on a more of a life cycle, right? Of when you
mhm.
first started, the investment piece, we can connect you to someone on the insurance side. So it's really all those pieces, which I see a lot of firms are moving to that, the valuation piece. If you're going to sell your business, there's so many elements there. So to me, doing your taxes is one piece, but the value is all the other wraparound services that are so much more integral to what you're doing from you started out and now you're going to retire. It's all those pieces. That to
Mhm.
me is the real value. And that's where your CPAs can come in with your other advisors and really create that total wraparound services value proposition.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And so when I think when a CPA, or I mean, just say any tax preparer or whatever, or on the audit side, it has to be a CPA. When they're doing the minimum job, that's fine, but they're not adding all the value they could or should. And so that probably does feel a little expensive then. So when they're being that strategic partner with you, able to answer some questions and provide you the information with which to answer those questions, you get a lot more out of that role. And your CPA sees a lot of businesses, not just yours. And so that ends up being a real advantage for us. I see dozens and dozens of businesses, and I mean that's what makes it interesting for me. And so I get to compare, what is this company doing versus that company, and seeing how each one creates value, etc. And we can, while we can't tell you about the other company, we can take some of the same lessons that we learn, good, bad, or ugly, and apply it to you.
That's a really good point too. It's what you see out there, all the
Sorry.
different organizations there are, companies there are, and then how are they looking at the valuation? What have they done different? You have that no one else has, right? And it could be in 3 different industries and 5, and it's and you talk to individuals that are doing the same work. So you have so
Right.
much knowledge and expertise that, yeah, that you just don't have from one individual, siloed event, so to speak.
Right. Well, a siloed event, I don't know, maybe that leads me to singularity, which leads me to AI, which leads me to, so how does the CPA,
That was a
a
good
CPA,
move there. I
swoop,
love that, Ben.
swoop, how do CPAs now remain relevant in the age of AI? Can we just ask Chat GPT to do our books if we're a business owner?
I mean, I get asked that a lot by the students. Like, am I going to have a job? Is my job going to go away? And I would say if you're not using AI or you're not using, you know, an element of that, you will be irrelevant because you have to know how to use it. But I would say for us, especially having the professional skepticism we have, just by the nature of what we do in the analytical piece, we're in a good spot because we're going to be able to provide that additional value when you look at everything that AI is doing. I mean, think about AI is creating receipts. I mean, you can create a fake receipt. Have you seen some of them out there? Like a restaurant receipt. My son did. My son does IT audit, and he loves the auditing piece. And he's like, "You can create receipts now. We have to look at that and make sure that
Wow.
those are real receipts, right?" So I think for our perspective, just having that professional skepticism, I think we're in a really good spot to be able to analyze and provide more clarity on AI and how you use it out there. than any other profession.
That's really interesting. So we can provide our, our information, experience, wisdom, and overlay it over the facts that AI is able to do so quickly and so well. Uh, it's really the combination of the two things that really gets it done, not just one or the other these
Yeah,
days.
and I think it's who we are, because we are that, we have that analytical piece by nature of what we do. We look, for different patterns, or we look how things can be applied. And that to me is what we need to do when we look at AI, because it's a great tool. I use it all the time, but I wouldn't just totally rely on it, right? I would have to go and do some due diligence, source checking, fact checking, but it's how we look at things in that skepticism that I think is going to be key, especially when
Great.
companies are using the AI all the time.
Right, well, because they're fact checking us, right? I mean, that's part of
Yep.
it. They want to make sure that they are getting good advice, which they generally are. However, a lot of people out there are kind of DIY. I mean, I'm in Silicon Valley. We have a few engineer clients, let's just say, and they're a lot of engineer people know how to figure things out, so they're going to try to figure it out, and a lot of them can. Um, but that doesn't mean they've done it 100 times like we have. So there is that experience gap that still is necessary to bridge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the expertise you have, you could probably spot something. You probably could look at something and just spot like, something doesn't look right or doesn't feel right to me. And that's just comes with doing it over the years and understanding it.
And I was just constantly and again recently reminded, like in other professions, like if you read a contract, most people can read a contract and understand what's there more or less. And CPAs do this all the time. However, it really takes a attorney to recognize not just what's there and the implications thereof, which they of course can do, but also recognize what's not there. So CPAs can do the exact same thing when they look at a financial statement and realize, okay, yeah, all the things there look okay, but where's the deferred revenue, or where's this, where's that, so that we can see the holes. Whereas if you don't have the experience, you don't see the holes.
No, so true. And I remember when I first started out, I had this boss and I said to her, "How do you know?" Like I could hand her something and she'd be like, "Something's not right, right? I can see it." Yeah, and I thought, I said, "How do you know that?" She goes, I know it after doing it the years, looking at different, statements and different information." She goes, "You'll know it too one day." And I did, right? But it's uncanny. It just is.
That's such a common experience. And I think that's great. I definitely had a mentor and boss who would. I'm sure we had exactly word for word that conversation.
Yeah. And it's just,
Okay.
I thought, "God, can I be like that one day?" I hope so.
Hey, turns out you
Yeah.
can. Uh, okay, just a couple of more of the real questions. So, how can a CPA literally increase the value of a client's company?
I mean, definitely, you probably could know this best from a valuation standpoint,
This
right?
may be a
You
setup, yeah.
Yeah, you could say all day long. I mean, just on looking at the financial statements, how to analyze it, right? Pull it together. Also to see some hidden patterns and that aren't out there. I think we've talked about it all, but definitely from the valuation standpoint, I mean, you're the expert on that, and from fraud too. I think there's a forensic piece to it as well, in looking at the information and auditing it, seeing where there's gaps. It's all
Yeah.
there.
And you hope you don't have to use the forensic skills, but they are there, if and when necessary. So, thinking about things like, effectively using assets and keeping working capital right sized and analyzing margins, what, product lines or yes, sale, revenue lines are really going well or not going well. Uh, all that kind of stuff, just from the foundation up, that really
Yeah.
helps. In fact, I'll say one of the things, especially working with small and mid-sized companies, one of the things is it's the price of entry to have good information. So if
Yes.
you ever want to sell your business, if you have not great books, that could just be a deal killer right off the top. Whether or not you have an otherwise good business, you haven't been able to communicate that because the books suck. So we have to get over it.
Yeah. That's a really good point that people don't think about until it's too late. Like you can't go back and do the evaluation or have that, the information or the trends if you didn't do it. So that's a really good point to
Right.
be thinking about.
Oh yeah, the information capture part is huge, and change in value can be from a negative to a positive, or the having bad books is a very negative impact on value. However, you can alleviate that. This has
Right.
nothing to do even with going into a new market or whatever and increasing your value that way.
When you said something effectively using assets, I think that is key.
Mhm.
People don't even really think about that. What's the best use? As an individual, you have to think about it, and as an organization.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. So let's say somebody owns a business and it's growing, it's becoming more complicated. They probably need some additional advice because of all those things. How do they go out and find a CPA, and how do they know if they're any good?
I think it's word of mouth. I don't know. To me, I mean, I usually ask if you have good people in your life. I ask. They know good people,
Mhm.
so I always ask word of mouth. Do you know somebody? You think about it even with plumbers or
Sure.
electricians. I always ask, like, do you know somebody good? Because if they know what they're doing, they know other people who know what they're doing. So I think word of mouth is great. I mean, you can come to us. We have so many, and I'm not just saying this because,
Yeah.
I mean there are so many people I would trust and ask, do you know this person? So I think it's getting engaged and really being able to have that network of trusted individuals.
Oh, gosh, I mean, you beat thousands of CPAs, and so first off, where they all have skills in common, but also where they have differential skills, where they have something unique to provide that would be an exquisite fit with a particular client, or they need the superpower over here because that'll solve the problem for them, et cetera, et cetera. And everybody's different, just like everybody. All the CPAs are different.
And I've never met a profession that is so giving, that wants to give to others. And I mean, the number of people that help on the tax side, the VITA programs, you think of financial literacy, we have so many people that give back that way and teach and help.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I will say sometimes to our detriment, I'll take a call from anybody and talk through their situation, whether or not that ends up being a client. And I am not in any way unique in that. So many of the people I know are just like that. And I think, in the note that I made for myself, the your point about successful people or people of high quality, you know, always hang out together, right? So they will. I got a guy is a real thing, and actually, that's a really positive thing. That reputation kind of can hold you together, and you just want to make sure that you're picking the right quality of people to ask when you're asking. So obviously, professionals of similar quality are going to flock together, and you just got to make sure you're picking eagles and not pigeons.
So true. So true.
Absolutely. I actually do have a couple of get to know you things if you don't
Yeah,
mind doing those. Okay.
sure.
Well, tell me something that's not on your LinkedIn or website profile.
I love to do charcuteries. I love
To
that.
do charcuteries, like to
Charcuterie
prepare
boards,
boards.
like charcuterie boards for holidays. I love to
Uh-huh.
do those and
Okay.
find ways to do them better, and it's kind of a strange little thing, and I love to make scones. I'm trying to
Scones.
perfect scone. Baking for me is and gardening is like, hiking is a way to just, unplug.
Absolutely.
So,
So,
if you
something
come by,
skills,
Ben, I'll make you a coffee chocolate chip scone. There you
and
go.
then we'll go for a hike.
And then
Perfect.
we'll go for a hike to wear it off.
Awesome. Uh, I think some of this we've already covered. I always ask, why is what you do rewarding to you? You've covered it a little bit, but is there anything else you wanted to add to what you've said already?
I believe in the importance, honestly, of the CPA to the economy, and I believe in what we do 100%,
Yeah.
100%, and I will fight for it to the end.
Well, you know what? Next time you go on a retreat or something, we can get those matching CPA tattoos. Uh,
Maybe not one that is actually in your skin, but just a
a temporary tattoo. Okay.
the temporary tattoos. There we
Easy,
go,
easy
Ben.
on that. All right. So we're all trying to improve ourselves. What are you reading right now?
Oh, I'm reading 3 books right now. I have a lot going. I'm reading The Experience Economy,
Hmm.
Mindset, and Abundance.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
I
What are
don't think
you
I've
reading?
actually read. I don't think I've actually read any of those. No, don't even.
What's your favorite book? Maybe we can start. What's your favorite book?
Let's see. What is my favorite book? Oh, I really liked Good to Great.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, and I've really been kind of leaning into the 4 Hour Work Week by Ferris lately.
It's a good one.
That's a good one. I like it from the philosophical standpoint more really than actually the idea of a 4 hour work week. I never want to work 4 hours. I would love to work 40 hours a week. That's the goal, I think, for most of us
Yeah.
CPAs. But
Yeah. We're getting better.
we are. I think we are. At least we are. I mean, I'll say, pat on the back. We are in my firm, and I know in many people's firms they are not doing 80 hours a week, constantly, which is good.
Right. I would say if you're getting closer to 40, put it out on LinkedIn. We need more and more of
Yeah.
that. Well,
So, Denise, where can people find you?
LinkedIn. So you can find me, Denise Leduc Froemming. Link into me. You can email me, honestly, denise.fremming@calcpa.org. And I might not get back to you within 24 hours. I try, but I will get back to you. Always. You can
Yeah,
count on it.
I was honestly very surprised when I actually got a response from you very quickly on, the very first time I sent an email to you. I'm like, you're not going to, respond to, one of 50,000 members. But you did. And I can't say whether it was 24 hours or not, but it was quick. So
I try
you
to.
did a good job.
Every email is important.
All right. Whew. All right. Thank you, Denise. Thank you so much for joining us. And it's really been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks for everything, Ben. I'm a fan of yours. So everything that you do, people speak very highly of you. So thank you for being in our world. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, Denise. Talk
Thank
soon.
you.
Bye.
Listeners, thank you for tuning in. This has been an episode of Max Value. Find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and other streaming services. Please like, subscribe, and follow, and we'll see you for the next show.